We spoke it into existence, Robert. Good morning. Welcome into 104.5 The Zone. I'm Lucas Panzica, not Buck Reising. What Buck knows is that he's taking the next few days off. What Buck does not know is that his key card has been taken and he has no way of getting back into the building. So we've got a substitute teacher situation going on here for the foreseeable future. Titans Radio Executive Producer Rhett Bryan joins me in that effort. Good morning, Rhett.
Good morning, Lucas. Let the takeover begin. We've done this before. Let's do it again.
Happy bye week to you. Early bye week for the Titans.
Yes, early bye week, but I'm going to tell you, it always comes at the right time. And as many guys as they have banged up, I mean, we were just talking about it with Robert here, in Q about all the backup quarterbacks that are playing around the NFL in week 6. And fortunately, the Titans don't have that problem, but they've got injuries in all places other than that.
Robert Walsh, our producer, who has been here for a few hours. You feeling okay?
Yes, sir. I'm in here now. What's going on?
We are taking you guys until 1 p.m. We're going to have a good time with it. Hope you'll stay with us. A lot to get to with the Titans bye week. The most interesting divisional race in the NFL as we kind of reset things 5 weeks into the season. And, of course, the third Saturday in October coming fast on Saturday. So an interesting day in Washington as we look back a little bit to the Titans' 21-17 win against the Commanders on Sunday. So I've had the privilege of being able to travel with Titans Radio for the first time this season, doing my scoreboard updates in the booth. And I'm getting to experience all these NFL stadiums for the first time. Before this season, Rhett, I had only ever been to Jerry World. I went down in 2018 just to go to the game when the Titans won Monday Night Football down there in Dallas.
Good one.
So every other stadium, and Titans don't go to Dallas, they host the Cowboys this year. Every stadium that the Titans visit this season will be my first time at that respective stadium. And what I've noticed is so many of these, and I knew that was the case with Jerry World and Arlington and Gillette Stadium and Foxborough, but I'm realizing just how many of these stadiums are located so far outside of town, outside of the metropolitan downtown area that football team represents, like FedEx Field, a solid 35, 40-minute drive out of Washington, D.C. So it got me thinking about, with all the stadium talk that has subsided a little bit with the Titans, and this is a pure hypothetical. If and when the Titans have a new stadium, it will be essentially in the same location, right? At least that's what we think.
Yep.
But the hypothetical of, would you rather have Nissan Stadium as is, a stadium that was built in the late 90s, that is outdated when you put it next to just what a modern NFL stadium looks like? Would you rather have it as is in that location, or a new, shiny, modern stadium with the retractable roof and all the things you could possibly want 40 minutes outside of town in Lebanon or Franklin or Murfreesboro, you name it? So it'd be interesting to hear what people think. 615-737-1045. But at FedEx Field in Washington, it's a situation where the radio booth is right there, right on top of the fans.
Yep. Same way in Baltimore.
Right. Are there any others that you can say that a fan can essentially turn around and climb into the booth if they really want to?
I think those are the only two that I can think of, because as we were talking about, as you were going through that, Arrowhead both is up high, and it's located outside of downtown Kansas City. We're up high at Indianapolis, as you saw. We're up high in Houston, but that's in downtown. But it's unfortunate sometimes when you can reach out of the booth window and tap a guy on the top of the head that's in the last row up next to the booth window.
So tell us what happened on Sunday with one particular unruly Washington fan during the game.
So I think they had lots of liquid courage working in their favor.
They've needed it. 4 straight losses.
They've needed it. And we got to thinking about this. We don't play them that often. That's the first time we've been there in 8 years, because they came here 4 years ago, so you alternate. And how bad Washington football has been in a window of time where, they're a legacy franchise. They're over 90 years old. And there's a one guy right kind of in front of Coach Mack and Brad Willis that was saying hail to the former moniker for so long.
Not football team,
not Commanders. And he was just being belligerent. And we were very fortunate that in the booth next to us was a suite where there were first responders. And Brad Willis looks over and says, hey, this guy's kind of being a problem, and kind of signals. And at one point, the booth door comes open. He comes past Philip Noel. He comes past me. He is in full gear. He has an AR-15. And he said, "Hey, fellas, pipe down." Didn't hear a ton out of that the rest of the game. Now, they were using like the seat backs to drum their hands on. They were still making lots of noise, but through that first quarter, it was interesting, to say the least.
Can you imagine you turn around, like, let me yell another thing at the away radio, and then guys peering over at you with an AR-15? Is that because we're in our nation's capital? I mean, is that why the security was so beefed up?
Probably. I would say that has quite a bit to do with it.
Because I have never seen an AR-15 in an NFL press box, I must say.
That was a first for me, and I've done it a lot
You've done
longer
a lot longer.
What a time for him to just throw it on the table if he wanted to. He's just like, nope, I'm going to keep doing it. What are you going to do? Blast away, buddy.
Well,
I'm going to keep hollering.
I'm glad it didn't escalate to that situation. Let's just say that. I don't want any part of that.
Well,
right
Mike
there.
Keith said that because the guy kind of leaned into Mike, and Mike turns around, and it's just an AR-15 in his
he
face.
felt the weapon on his side. Because he goes between Mike and the wall of the booth and kind of squeezes in. And he's like, "Oh, my, that cold gunmetal is like, oh, that's an AR-15.
Am I being too loud?"
In Baltimore, in the preseason, we had, a problem with a guy who had been drinking too much.
And there is no proof, by the way, that was not Robert Walsh, because we did not know Robert when that incident happened.
I mean, well, that's true.
Moving on.
That's true. But in Baltimore, if you'll remember this story, last football season, during the regular season, their color analyst for the Ravens radio broadcast team, they keep their windows up. There was a drunk lady that climbed into the window in front of the color analyst, and of course he's on the air. He's like, "Lady, what are you doing? What the hell's going on?" But yeah, it happens. But in most places, that is not attainable. But yeah, the payoff is that you are low to the ground. Like at Nissan Stadium, we have a great view.
Yeah, it's
really good. Now, in Washington,
Not
the
so
view
much.
was not so much because it's like we were calling a baseball game. It was in the corner of the end zone. But that's where the modern NFL stadium stuff is in terms of prime spaces for suites, and the rest is the rest. So there it is.
That situation in Baltimore with the lady crawling into the booth was just the most amazing example of theater of the mind in radio, because the play-by-play guy is trying to be professional. It's Sandusky, right?
Jerry Sandusky.
That's
unfortunate name there.
Very unfortunate.
He catches a lot of flack, man.
Oh, listen, he
Yep.
told Mike Keith and I one time years ago, because he's a great dude. When all that happened at Penn State, the FBI came to his house.
Oh, goodness.
Now, his name is spelled with a G, Jerry, not J, Jerry. But, yeah, he said that was frightening.
Oof.
But, yeah, he's had the unfortunate name since all of that came to light at Penn State.
But he keeps going. He's trying to call the game, and
Right.
it's his color commentator that's
It was
saying,
completely
what are you
thrown
doing?
off.
What's happening? So that
Well, you
was
can imagine
fantastic.
Coach Mack. Hey,
Oh,
what
my
the
goodness.
hell?
I almost want that to happen to hear what Coach Mack's reaction would be.
Not yes, hell yes.
Do you like the early bye week? I mean, I know it always falls at the right time, but if it were up to you,
It would fall right in the middle.
yeah,
It would just be split like you open a book.
8-9 games in.
Yep, that would be perfect, which is what we had last year.
Mm-hmm.
But, or was that last year? Was that the year before? We had
Last
like
year,
week 13 last year.
Yeah, it
wasn't
was late. It
Yeah.
came after the Patriots game, I
Yeah.
want to say.
So, I mean, that you're like, just come on anytime because you're just dog tired. But, yeah, if I had my druthers, it would be just kind of split down the middle of the season.
Well, it still feels like a good time just because of the situation the team is in now.
Yep.
It feels like the injuries have piled up quicker than they did a year ago. You've already used 64 players. I mean, you're already 30 away from the mark you set, less than 30 away from the mark you set last season.
And Mike Vrabel has told us this week, he has been vocal about, I'm excited about guys we're going to give a chance to have more playing opportunity who have shown the hustle, and maybe even some who get less opportunity. He said that in his presser at noon on Monday, and he kind of reiterated it on the Mike Vrabel show that night here on 104.5 The Zone. So he has my curiosity up. He and John Robinson just tell you what they're going to do, and it's so stone-faced. You're like, when it happens, you're like, wait a minute. He said they were going to do this. So, and what got my attention was in both cases of those quotes, it was unprovoked. He took a question and turned it into a message.
Wait, let's play that audio when we come back, and that
Yeah.
can feed into a discussion about What is the biggest surprise of the Titans season to this point for you?
I have my answer. Do you have yours?
I have my answer.
Okay.
5 games in, Titans at 3-2 atop the AFC South into the bye week. The biggest surprise of the Titans season coming up next. It's the Buck Reising Show on 104.5 The Zone.
Did you know that getting your testosterone checked on a regular basis should be a part of your annual routine men's health? I certainly did not know that until I talked to Tennessee Men's Clinic. A lot of guys suffer from low testosterone, and you really don't even realize it, other than you notice things about yourself start to change over time. Low T affects quality of life in meaningful ways. Your quality of life does not have to decrease just because your testosterone levels might be. If any of this sounds familiar, you're feeling sluggish, run down, your libido's been low, you just don't feel like you used to, it could very well be low T. Low T treatments can truly change your life. Most men experience higher energy, better gains in the gym, better mental clarity, improved sleep patterns, a faster metabolism. You may even notice an increased sex drive. It's only $99 for a testosterone and PSA test, and in a matter of minutes, you'll know your numbers. So call them today to prioritize your health. 615-208-9090. That's 615-208-9090, or go to TennesseeMen'sClinic.com.
The Buck Reising Show is powered by Spring Hill Heating and Cooling. Go to springhillac.com.
So Mike Vrabel spoke twice on Monday for the final time for the bye week. We'll hear from him again going into Colts week when they come out of the break. Good morning, Lucas Panzica alongside Rhett Bryan. It's the Buck Reising Show takeover on 104.5 The Zone. Robert Walsh making it happen. So Vrabel spoke with media during his press conference on Monday's usual day after game presser, and then again on the Mike Vrabel Show on 104.5 The Zone and with Titans Radio. Now, we talked about this a little bit, Rhett, when you came in to hang out with Blaine and Mickey yesterday. But for those that did not hear, Mike Vrabel every once in a while says something that at surface level, it's just Mike Vrabel, coach speak, whatever. And then you do kind of a double take, and it makes you think a little bit. So could you kind of set this up, what we're about to hear between Mike Keith and Mike Vrabel from Monday?
Corey Curtis of WKRN News 2 asked Mike Vrabel Monday at noon at his presser, is this more of a self-evaluation, self-scout week with no game? And this was what Mike Vrabel said.
Coach, does your heart race on these close games?
I've gotten used to them. Yeah, I've gotten used to them. So it's hell being a Titans fan. I tell my family that. I can only imagine. And we appreciate every single one of our fans, but it's not easy. But I know they stick with us. Our guys fight like they're defending the Alamo, Mike. I love them. They fight and they compete. I mean, there's...
You know, a bunch of those guys were from Tennessee too, right?
I know.
Yes.
And I just, you know, I mean, it's we're at a point where it's, you know, yeah, we'd love to have a full roster with the guys we've been working with and guys that haven't been injured and you know what I mean, but that's not the reality. You know, our job's to find 48 guys that are willing to fight and compete, and I'm excited because I think going forward we're gonna start rewarding some guys that have been playing with some great effort. So I'm excited to see that.
Okay, now that was actually from the Mike Vrabel Show,
Right?
That was, and it's okay that you played that first because that's the reiteration. That's what caught my attention because I heard what he said earlier in the day. That was on the Mike Vrabel Show with Mike Keith, and he said we're going to find 48 guys to fight and compete, and he's excited about rewarding guys with more playing time and opportunity. But what he said initially was this right here.
Well, I think it always is. I mean, I think we're always trying to conscious of what we're doing well and how we can continue to do it well, but also who can continue to help us. You know, who should play more, who's earned the right to play more. You know, maybe who should play less. So those are decisions that we have to make.
Who should play more and maybe who should play less. So now you can immediately start pointing to names and saying names off the top of your head that come to your mind about, well, this person's probably who he's talking about is going to get less playing them. I think it's more about just what he said initially later that night on the Mike Vrabel Show about 48 guys to fight and compete and looking forward to and excited about rewarding guys with opportunities. That could mean Chigakonkwo is more a part of this passing game in the post-bye week part of this season because he's really come on in this. I'm trying to think of some, Tierre Tart just keeps building off of that big play he had in Indianapolis. And obviously you're going to go, well, he's talking about Caleb Farley. Well, he might be, but I don't think he's just talking about a Caleb Farley. He's talking about a bunch of different guys.
And that he has to have someone in mind when he says that, right? I mean, there's probably a few guys that are floating around in his head about rewarding them for their effort coming out of the bye week. So the Titans can kind of hit an early reset button here, and it's much needed because guys like Grayson McMath haven't seen the field this season. Guys like Elijah Molden haven't seen the field this season, and Titans could really use Elijah Molden right now with some of the rotation that's happening at defensive back in the slot, inside, outside. So that got me thinking as Mike Vrabel mulls over which guys need to be rewarded for their effort moving forward. That got me kind of thinking about what's surprised you most about how things have transpired over the first 5 weeks? Because there are a lot of things that have not gone, quote unquote, according to plan, which is every NFL season. But some things stick out more than others. I mean, I'll start with you, Rhett. What do you have there? And if you want to join the discussion, 615-737-1045.
So you mentioned 64 players have already played on this roster, 20-plus players on defense. And because of that, I think one of the more surprising things for me, just based on that alone and the rotation and how many guys have had to come in and play, is they're number one in the NFL against third down. Under 30% allowed.
1 of 11 on third down defensively against Washington Sunday.
That's right. And their first third down was right near the end of the game. But a game like that and what they've been building off of, they're the number one team third down defense in the NFL. Now, conversely, they're last, 32nd, on allowing fourth down conversions. But as Coach Mack would say, hey, listen, they're not converting 4th and 8, 4th and 11. It's 4th and 1. People are going for it more and more than they ever have. But I'd say that they're number one in third down defense right now, which is great considering.
Yeah, that Washington game certainly jumped them to the top of that list, too, because if you hold a team to 1 of 11.
You better believe it.
Like you said, Washington started 0 for 9, 0 for 8, 0 for 9, 0 for 10, something in that range on third down. I mean, that's the definition of bend, don't break. What the Titans did on defense Sunday is the textbook of bend, don't break with the David Long interception at the goal line. That's a good one because I think there's a balancing component to that on how they started the season on run defense. That was very surprising to me, the slow start defensively against the run, and then that has improved over the course of the first 5 weeks. For me, on offense, it's the tight end position, specifically with Austin Hooper. 6 catches, 55 yards through 5 games. Now, 2021 with the Browns was considered a down year for Hooper statistically.
Yep.
5 games into that season, he had 12 catches for 101 yards and a touchdown. So twice as many catches, almost twice as many yards, and a score, which he does not have this season. And I just say that because from the jump, there was nothing more consistent with the Titans offense from spring workouts before the draft until through training camp. Nothing was more consistent with this offense than Ryan Tannehill to Austin Hooper. He was on the field every day, voluntary workouts, OTAs, mini camp, training camp. Other guys would come on and off. Hooper was healthy. He was on the field, and that was a constant connection. And I remember going into week 1 saying, if Austin Hooper has 7 catches in this game, if 6 catches in week 1, I won't be surprised. And he's had 6 catches through the first 5 weeks. So certainly didn't have him playing behind Jeff Swaim as much as he has this season. He had 34 snaps on offense to Swaim's 42. But for me, just that early connection that we saw with Tannehill,
Sure.
It has me surprised at Hooper's lack of involvement in this offense, especially given, Burks being injured and the guy, Racey McMath, being injured and some of the lack of options that they've been forced into due to injury.
Well, and listen, what you're saying is valid because we all saw it. I mean, every time they do red zone drills, it's 17 to Hooper, 17 to Hooper, even the other quarterbacks. He was constantly scoring touchdowns in those practices. But I think the other byproduct of this is, again, they've used 64 guys already. They're just having to do what they can do and piecemeal some things together till they get some guys back. And I think that's where that production has suffered because he's had to come in and chip and help and, help the run game, help block. They ask all their tight ends to block. They ask all their tight ends to get open and all their tight ends to catch, and he's had to do more of the blocking part of it.
So we asked the question on social media, what's the biggest surprise of the Titans season through 5 weeks as we head into the bye week? Robert Walsh, what are people saying?
Jared is actually agreeing with you, how little the tight ends are targeted in the pass game. In camp, it looked like Hoop and Chig were going to have 40 to 50 receptions. Another man, George, he said the lack of Tannehill slander by Titans fans on a weekly basis apparently thinks he should be getting hit with a little more trash talk than he is now.
I honestly think that he should be praised a little more than he is because his toughness is not talked about enough. He took a beating on Sunday and lived to tell about it. He's a tough dude. That's a tough hombre. And sure, could he get better and do some things better? Well, you can't point to anybody on that team who couldn't, use some improvement. But yeah, it's quiet on that front because he's done lots of things to keep them in ball games.
And Sam Dillard chimes in, Tier Tart, who is probably the belle of the ball right now of this defense, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's really tickled pink.
That's fair.
With Tier Tart.
Yeah, definitely did not have Tier Tart penciled in as the team leader in PBUs 5 weeks in. Jeffrey Simmons, by the way, second on the team in PBUs.
And that's that's a big part of why this third down defense is as good as it is they've just got dudes up there taking space and just not allowing much of anything. But Tier Tart has played off of that incredible tip and interception in Indianapolis, and he parlayed that into a great game again on Sunday at Washington. It's like lit a fire with him or something, and that's a great thing for the Titans and certainly for this defense.
I was out Monday and Tuesday, but I don't know how big of a deal you guys made on the play where he was in coverage, broke on the ball, and broke the ball up. That's ridiculous. The dude's a nose tackle. Like, for him to be out in coverage and then to break on the ball and make a PBU like that, I was astounded at a terrible fall wedding this weekend because of that.
Well, my
sorry you had
apologies.
to do that.
Yeah, my apologies for that one. Here's the thing that what people don't realize about Tier. First of all, he has an incredible journey and story, which I partly told with him in an interview that we ran on Titans Countdown in pregame last Sunday. He went to 4 junior colleges before he ever went to Florida International. But before that, he didn't play football until on up in high school. He played basketball. So there's where some of the get is that you're seeing in scooting and doing those things. But he gets it honest because Jeffrey Simmons does the same thing. He went down and tackled Terry McLaurin, was at 25 yards down the field to save what could have been a touchdown. So they've got some cats back there that are versatile that way.
Now, here's the thing, though, with Tier Tart and Jeffrey Simmons, the way they've been defending the pass. Now, Tier Tart, you're right, is one of the best surprises of the Titan season through 5 weeks. You expected him in the rotation and to play a role, but not to this extent. Certainly not to have an interception before a halfway point of the season. But I don't know how to feel about that the two leaders on this defense in pass breakups are defensive linemen, are interior defensive linemen. I feel like there's two sides to that coin, right? Now, the Titans are doing some things on the goal line defensively against Washington where they drop Tart and Simmons into coverage, knowing Carson Wentz is not running that football. It's so strange that when you watch it back to see 5 linemen blocking nobody in that goal line sequence there at the end. I mean, it was there's confusion that they're in their stance and they're not blocking anybody because Tart and Simmons are at the goal line. And they broke up a pass.
Yes, they did.
But I don't know how to feel about that. Is that more of
part of the story is because your pass rushers aren't there. Harold Landry's out for the year. Bud Dupree is working through a hip. And I'm not sliding anybody who's playing in their stead because Rashad Weaver's done well. But it's a byproduct of what's going on at all 3 levels, with injuries and various things. Because, you would think it would be a linebacker who's speedy, or it's a corner or a safety or whoever. But it's just kind of the way it is right now.
Yeah, that's what I wonder. Is it an indictment a little bit on the defensive backfield and how that group is playing right now? Because there's been issues there with Caleb Farley and some of the lack of trust they appear to have shown in him. But I don't know how to balance that out because Tier Tart has been fantastic through 5 weeks. Simmons has been as well, like we all expected. But I don't know how to balance out whether that's an indictment of the defensive backfield or that's just those guys doing some things at a really high level.
Well, no, the other part of it is season's long, and there's ebbs and flows to all of it, and stats go that way. They might have a stretch where they don't have any quarterback sacks, and then they come in bunches. And same thing with intercept. I mean, these things just kind of, are back and forth. Now, on a positive thought about it, in terms of matching hands with a quarterback, which drills they do every day in practice, you look at what Rashad Weaver does it, Jeff, Danico Autry. Ryan Crow, the outside linebackers coach, told us in training camp, we want more opportunities to get turnovers. And we've got to do things like that to make that kind of stuff happen. And so the fact that it's coming from a different position group that maybe isn't common is also, I think, a part of that too, is they're all trying to get to the ball to get a rake in and pull a ball out that, you could recover and force a fumble or get an interception or whatever it is. So I think that's a part of the equation too.
Biggest surprise of the Titans season as we hit the bye week. We put it to a poll at Lucas Panzica on Twitter for you to go vote. Robert, what else are people saying?
Beer Rules Forever says that they lost to the Giants. I don't know if I'm more surprised by his answer that he's still living on week 1 or that Beer Rules Forever is a name on Twitter.
Well, let's say this. The Giants apparently are not a joke. I mean, every win they get kind of says, hey, okay, that just kind of was what it was. Now, could they have done different in the second half and, sewn that up and beat the Giants? Sure. But they went and beat a really decent Packers team in London, and they're 4-1. I mean, whatever Brian Daboll is selling, they are buying by the buckets full.
That division, and we're going to talk about the most interesting divisional races in the NFL so far, but the NFC East is so fascinating right now on so many levels, with the Eagles playing the way they are, the Cowboys winning without Dak Prescott, and the New York Football Giants under Brian Daboll sitting there at 4-1, and the Commanders are what they are. But
it wasn't that long ago. This was one of the worst divisions in the NFL.
That's what I'm saying. It is crazy to think that with all the talk about the AFC West before the season, the NFC West, it is the NFC East right now that I'm gonna see if they collectively have the best record as a division. Washington would probably weigh that down, so I'm gonna say probably not. It's probably one of these. If I had to guess, I'd say the NFC West just because of the parity.
It's close,
but it's got to be close, which is fascinating. The NFL's lone unbeaten team is located in Philadelphia in the NFC West. People are engaging with this. Would you rather have a new modern stadium 40 minutes outside of town or Nissan Stadium in its current location? 615-737-1045. Total hypothetical. There are no plans in place to build a new Titan Stadium, 45 minutes outside of town.
No, because they own the property right there at the river.
That's right. It would be right there. And like I said, I'm realizing that Nissan Stadium, with all the issues it might have, it's one of, if not the best location in the NFL. With the skyline right there, you can walk over the bridge from downtown, walk back to downtown after the game.
Yep.
Even Buffalo, which is not a very big town, it was a drive. It was a drive to get to Highmark Stadium away from that downtown hotel.
Park, New York.
What's your least favorite NFL stadium that you have visited? Is it Washington? I mean, even you can take into account the vantage point because it is a very poor vantage point.
The vantage point for me, and it's Miami, Hard Rock.
Oh, really?
It's horrible.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's just something about it. But, not a fan of that.
Jonas says one of the biggest surprises for him through 5 weeks, the fact that we're 3-2 and did not score any points in 2 of those games in the second half. Titans have yet to score a point in the fourth quarter this season.
First team in, 15, 16 years?
To
not have a score in the fourth quarter?
For 5 weeks?
Yeah.
Wow. That is a crazy stat.
But, I mean, you look, there is parity all over the league. I mean, how many teams are 2-2, 3-2 right now?
Yeah. William says, Arlington makes sense if you think about how much bigger DFW is compared to Nashville, centrally located in the Metroplex, close to the airport, et cetera, et cetera. People wouldn't want to go to Dallas over Arlington. I don't know. I completely would disagree with that. Mike Herndon, our friend Mike Herndon, said, I lived in Dallas for several years and hated having to drive to Arlington to go to Cowboys or Rangers games. Being able to go to Broadway either before or after whatever event you're attending without moving your vehicle or taking an Uber is great. So, yeah, certainly don't take that for granted.
I 100% agree on Dallas, but it's mostly because I got arrested there when WrestleMania was in Dallas.
Wow.
What'd you do, Robert?
Oh, my God.
Well, Robert's on the blotter here.
It's a long story. Long story short, I was going into the stadium for WrestleMania. I see an envelope on the ground with 20 sticking out of it. I pick it up. I grab it. There's $700. I proceed to tell my friends we're going to have the best WrestleMania ever. We do. We do have the best WrestleMania ever, but I got a little too drunk. I passed out on the bus ride back, and then I fell asleep in a hotel lobby. I was unresponsive, so they took me to the drunk tank.
Was it worth it?
Wow.
Oh, totally worth it. Even if I could tell you the X-rated version, it would be definitely worth it, but I can't tell you the rest of it.
I know we got to go to a break, but where would it be if it was not here? Your out-of-town scenario, because honestly, out by the Nashville Superspeedway,
Lebanon.
Right there by 840 with proper way to ingress and egress would be perfect.
That's what I was going to say. A lot of open space.
Yep.
Like you said, easy to get to, but that is not something that Titans fans will have to deal with. A little bit of news from Adam Schefter before we get to our SEC Week 6 takeaways. Raiders wide receiver Devontae Adams was charged this morning in the Municipal Court of Kansas City with misdemeanor assault. We'll react to that, get our SEC takeaways from Week 6, 615-737-1045. It's the Buck Reising Show takeover on 1045 The Zone.
If you are like I am and you are trying to get your weight in check, you've been trying this, you're somebody who maybe you try a diet every once in a while, your weight yo-yos a little bit, and you're just trying to find consistent ways to maintain, to continue to keep that weight off once you've lost it. You need help from PhD Weight Loss, the way that they are helping Ramon Foster and myself. We are currently on our track. Ramon, I was talking to him this morning. Big fella's down 15 pounds. Total so far, I'm working with about 12. So now it's become a competition between the two of us, courtesy of PhD Weight Loss. They'll do the exact same thing for you that they're doing for Ramon and I. They'll customize a weight loss program for you. Diet, schedule, exercise to make you understand, to help you understand how to put these good habits in place. Their number one priority is keeping the weight off. Their maintenance is free for PhD clients who hit their healthy target goal weight. PhD Weight Loss's monthly maintenance accountability weigh-ins are at no charge and for as long as necessary. For more information and to find out how to get your weight loss journey started, go to myphdweightloss.com.
6 weeks down in the 2022 college football season. Robert Walsh setting the vibes as we get back. Buck Reising Show, Lucas Panzica, Rhett Bryan with me. Robert, what is this?
This is what you won't do for love
By Bobby
Caldwell. I could not believe listening to that this guy was white.
He is.
Listen,
No,
to
seriously.
the sultry voice.
Listen, this came out when I was a kid, and I thought it was a soul artist, an R&B artist, and he is as white as the driven snow.
neon white.
But I mean, this is an old school jam right here.
This is like when you're walking through the airport, like this is like airport music that when you're walking through the airport, but it just slowly starts like seeping into your head and you just find yourself like bobbing your head as you're walking through the airport and you're like sticking your phone up to Shazam it. Like, what is this?
It's definitely dentist's office for sure.
It's a good dentist office.
Oh, absolutely. We're not talking Muzak.
I'm trying to go to the dentist, man. Where's they playing this at? Give me some of that good gas, Doc.
Robert Walsh on the controls. Coming off Week 6 action in the SEC, of course, we're leading into the third Saturday in October, Tennessee and Alabama in Neyland Stadium. But first, let's talk about what happened last Saturday. And we have covered in depth Tennessee dog-walking LSU in Baton Rouge last weekend. But Alabama escaping at home against Texas A&M. We hadn't really gotten the chance to hit on this game in depth. 24-20 the final, the goal line stop. First of all, what was your reaction to that play call by Jimbo, which caught a lot of flack? That last play, Texas A&M trying to get into the end zone on the final play of the game from the 2 or 3 yard line. I mean, what was your reaction to that? Like, Jimbo Fisher, what are you doing? Or
100%. It's much like, the game on Monday night when Josh McDaniels went for 2. And I'm like, What are we doing? Just get the points.
Yeah,
I definitely was scratching my head at Jimbo Fisher in that. I think he overthought it for sure. Because I was like, man, there's a real chance they can go down right here. I'm like, oh, never mind.
I don't know how Tennessee fans would have preferred that game ended. I don't know if Tennessee fans would have preferred an undefeated Alabama coming into Neyland Stadium for a top 6 matchup, or if there's probably a lot out there that say, no, I don't care the circumstance. I want them to lose. I don't know, because I didn't know how I felt about it.
I think true Vols fans would probably say, yeah, give them an L.
Yeah.
But I think it's better that they won. I really do.
Yeah, for the overall matchup and all the buzz around it, absolutely. But that's also a product of having a true freshman be your number 1 receiver in year 5 of the Jimbo Fisher era.
That's right.
Because Evan Reynolds, the receiver that pass was intended for Texas A&M, had a fantastic game. But he should not be your number 1 receiver in that moment. It's a deep route. He doesn't take it deep enough. The pass never had a chance. And Texas A&M loses on the final play of the game where they hung with Alabama the entire way. Mm-hmm. And I just hate that. I hate that for a true freshman that should not be in that position to be the number 1 receiver on the roster because Aniyah Smith is out for the season. Texas A&M's number 1 guy before that. Evan Stewart. I'm sorry, I said Evan Reynolds. Evan Stewart should not have been put in that position. That is a true freshman trying to make a game-winning play in Tuscaloosa, and he was a blue-chip recruit, the number 1 or 2 wide receiver prospect in the country, 5-star player. But still, I do think that in and of itself is an indictment of where you're at right now in the Jimbo Fisher era. That talk about the play call all you want, but you were going to a true freshman to know what to do on that final play of the game, and I just don't think he ran the route deep enough, and A&M ends up on the losing end.
Yeah, it was a disappointing outcome because I would have liked to have seen a loss there. But again, listen, Alabama's been on a little bit of borrowed time with decent competition all season.
Well, I'll say this: Alabama.
Quinn Ewers doesn't get knocked out of that Texas game. I think that's a different deal right there.
Well, so we can have that conversation 100% because Ewers was fantastic against Oklahoma, and you could make the argument that if Quinn Ewers is healthy, then Texas is undefeated right now. That they don't lose to Texas Tech in overtime. That they beat Alabama at home. That's obviously not the case. Ewers is back now. Texas is a 2-loss football team, but Alabama got caught in a similar situation against A&M without their starter, Bryce Young.
Yep.
Without the defending Heisman winner. They escape. Now, I don't think that game is the same at all if Bryce Young is the starter. I mean, way too many people are going to use that game as evidence as to why Tennessee can beat Alabama, which I think it's totally fine to make that argument because Tennessee can beat Alabama on Saturday. But to me, that argument falls flat if you're using that game because we don't know if Bryce Young is playing for Alabama or not. On Saturday, it seems like it's trending towards he is. Nick Saban, the way that he speaks about Bryce Young and that he wanted to come in at the end, he was suited up on the sideline. We're not going to know probably until game day, nor should we know. There's no reason for Alabama to tell us.
Right.
But if Bryce Young, who has turned the ball over 3 times all season, if he plays in that game against Texas A&M and is relatively healthy, I think A&M wins that game by 2 to 3 scores because Jalen Milroe turned the ball over 3 times. He made freshman mistakes in a big moment against Texas A&M. He put the ball in dangerous spots multiple times. A&M scored 2 touchdowns in that game. Both were right off of Jalen Milroe turnovers.
Yes.
So make the argument that Tennessee can beat Alabama on Saturday. That's fine, but stop using that game as the evidence that they could barely beat an A&M team that struggled this year and that they only put up 24 points.
How about belief that you can just beat them because you're rolling?
You can make the argument that a Bryce Young at 60 or 70% won't be enough to outscore Tennessee. And again, we have no idea if that's the case.
Right.
But you can sit there and make that argument, but don't look at that game as the evidence.
Well, and the Vols simply have to give Neyland something to cheer about and keep it going because that hasn't been as big a factor because of just the way this series has gone in the last 15 years. But I honestly think if you can get Neyland involved, they can make a difference. Bryce Young or no Bryce Young.
Last time this rivalry was a top 10 matchup, it was Alabama coming into play number 9 Tennessee, who had just come off a overtime loss to Texas A&M. They were the number 9 team in the country. They had already beaten Georgia. They'd already beaten Florida. They were in the driver's seat in the SEC East. They were beat up, injuries all over the place. But that game was a rout. It was either 45-10 or 49-10. I can't remember off the top of my head. But there was a major disparity between those two teams. I think there's a lot less of that going into this game, which is why I think the buzz has just been overwhelming. But that was my takeaway on Saturday, that if Bryce Young is healthy, and he wasn't, so you can't play the what-if game all season long, but if he was healthy, then Alabama cruises in that game, and we're having different discussions this week about what it's going to take for Tennessee to outscore Alabama.
You know, I was looking at the history of the third week in October, and I remember well this 1993 game when Tennessee was number 10 and they were number 2, defending national champs. Jay Barker was the quarterback.
Yeah.
And, they had a 17-9 lead with 1:44 left, but it ended a 17-17 tie that snapped a 28-game win streak for Bama at that point. And I think that's the last tie that Bama has had in their football program. And, of course, with some NCAA violations, they had to forfeit that win. So Tennessee considers that a win. But that's kind of what I think about when I think about what the Vols are up against on Saturday is hanging with it and it just being a 12-round heavyweight boxing match.
A few other bullet points around the league from what we saw on Saturday. Mississippi State blows out Arkansas, who was also without their starter at quarterback in KJ Jefferson. Malik Hornsby took the reins there. And I don't know who the second best team in the SEC West is, but I do know that the Egg Bowl is going to be must-see TV this season.
Yes, it is.
With an undefeated Ole Miss. Mississippi State's already dropped one at LSU. They blew a lead in that game, but they've been picking up steam. Back-to-back routes over SEC West opponents in Texas A&M and Arkansas, and we are on the fast track to a really fun Egg Bowl at the end of the season because both teams could be sitting there with 2 losses. It's going to be really fascinating, Mike Leach and Lane Kiffin. This might be the favorite era of the Egg Bowl in my lifetime as far as head coaches go.
SEC, it just
Head to
means
head.
more.
Rick is in Charlotte to talk about the Tennessee-Alabama game. Good morning, Rick.
Good morning, guys. How you doing today?
Doing well.
Great.
Well, hey, I'm just sitting here in my alligators this morning over in Charlotte, and I'm going through these rosters. And Alabama, they've got some big guys, but that's not going to be a problem. You know why?
Why is that?
Because big guys are my specialty. You could ask Vader. You could ask Big Show. You could ask Taker. You could ask Andre. You could ask Hogan. You could ask Bundy. You could ask John Studd. You could ask Psycho Sid. You could ask Gorilla Monsoon. You could ask Luger. You could ask Giant Baba. You could ask K-Stax Calhoun. You could ask Yokozuna. You could ask Jerry Blackwell. You can ask Billy Goldberg. You can ask King Haku. You can ask Danny Spivey. You can ask Kamala. You can ask Elegante. You can ask Mac Morgan. You can ask Dr. Death. You can ask Dr. Bam Bam Bigelow. You can ask Kane. You can ask Dickie Murdoch. You can ask
Okay. First of all, that was an impressive list of big men. He knows his wrestling like the back of his hand.
Going and
So
going.
we now put him back up. Let's see if Rick.
You can ask Abdullah the Butcher. You can ask Kevin Nash. You can ask Blackjack Mulligan. You can ask Terry Gordy. You can ask the Warriors.
So we're going to start calling Rick and Charlotte, who has called in under several different aliases, as the WWE Bandit on the Buck Reising Show, who continues to call in with various wrestling impressions. And he knows his stuff. He executes it very well. And I must tip my hat to Rick and Charlotte.
Wow. That was impressive.
Dumbest thing in sports, next.
From the Superbook.com sports desk, I'm Robert Walsh. The Atlanta Braves, they trailed 7-1 after the top of the fifth inning and rallied all the way back to 7-6 with 3 runs in the bottom of the ninth, courtesy of a 3-run homer from Matt Olson. But the rally fell short. Yordan Alvarez smashed a walk-off 3-run homer with 2 outs in the ninth inning, vaulting the Houston Astros to an 8-7 win over the Seattle Mariners. And the Yankees beat the Guardians 4-1. The Dodgers packed the Padres 5-3. And in the NFL, the Minnesota Vikings have signed VFL Theo Jackson from the Titans practice squad. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Hello, good morning, and welcome into the Buck Reising Show on 104.5 The Zone. Lucas Panzica with you today, next to Rhett Bryan, executive producer of Titans Radio. Robert Walsh making it happen. Some NFL headlines. Davante Adams charged with assault for the post-game shove on a photographer in Kansas City after the Raiders lost to the Chiefs on Monday Night Football. Looking around the league, the Cowboys looking like they'll continue with Cooper Rush on Sunday. Head coach Mike McCarthy saying they are planning for Rush to start. Up next, the Cowboys, as I pull up who they have up next, have gone 4-0 with Cooper Rush. They're 5-0 with him as a starter. That's the best mark in franchise history for a quarterback to start his career. And the Dallas Cowboys play the Eagles on Sunday Night Football.
Well. Cooper's done a nice job with that, and if they can get somehow past the Eagles on this thing and get Dak back, oof, that might be dangerous.
We were talking about it off the air in hour one. What a time for backup quarterbacks in the NFL. Cooper Rush, Andy Dalton had to kind of carry the load for the Saints the last couple weeks. Almost led them to a win in London over Minnesota, but he does lead them to a win over Seattle. Taysom Hill in there as well. Skylar Thompson, the 7th-round rookie, having to take the keys for Miami as Teddy Bridgewater and Tua Tagovailoa concussed. Bailey Zappi, Western Kentucky legend, leading. They smothered the Lions. The Patriots did
29-0. Yeah,
29-0. Bailey Zappi
and PJ Walker's got to get the start for the Carolina Panthers because Baker Mayfield has a high ankle sprain.
Indeed, he is. So how about that? Cooper Rush looking for the 5th consecutive win this season since taking over. Their only loss was the one game that Dak Prescott did play.
Yep.
So that didn't happen this week, so that does not qualify. But what did happen this week that would qualify for this segment? It's the dumbest thing in sports this week.
Let's be honest. You've already seen something this week that made you say,
What the is this?
That's bullshit.
What the hell? Give me some more now.
something so mind-numbingly idiotic that you just want to get it off your chest.
Dumber than a second coat of paint.
Some idiot.
You are really dumb. For real.
It's the dumbest thing in sports this week on the Buck Reising Show.
Presented by Painter Ready, 615-615-737-1045. Give us the dumbest thing in sports this week. The statute of limitations goes back to last Thursday. So in the last 7 days, give us the dumbest thing in sports this week. Rhett Bryan?
First of all, you know who I'm channeling when I do that voice for that intro.
That is you.
It's Don Pardo, the longtime voiceover man for Saturday Night Live.
Oh.
Musical guest, my morning jacket. You know, that kind of deal.
Oh, I like that.
It hands down for me is Monday Night Football. Chris Jones, Kansas City Chiefs, called for roughing the passer, and he has the football in his hands. It is a quarterback sack. It is a forced fumble. It is a fumble recovery. He has the ball, and yet they call roughing the passer. And that was not only one, but there was 2 of those this weekend because another roughing the passer call on Tom Brady in that Buccaneers game. An egregious call on Monday Night Football. You could tell that Kansas City was about to burn that place to the ground. And it is something I feel certain that one Mike Vrabel probably take took notes on and will bring up as something to look at as a reviewable play because he is a member of the NFL's competition committee.
Without a doubt. Jeffrey Simmons flagged for one on Sunday. Now, Simmons was kind of...
It was a swipe. It was a glancing blow.
Just caught a piece of the helmet. Now, and I know that was an emphasis before. I think officials are being told to hold off on that now.
I don't like that
incidental
one either,
contact.
But this Chris Jones one was
much
just
worse.
ridiculous.
It's much worse. I think, to me, anytime I've gotten to the point now where I'm conditioned to where if an interior pass rusher or whoever it might be makes any contact with the helmet of the quarterback, I'm going to assume it's going to be a roughing call. As whether or not I agree with that is a different matter, but I'm just going to assume that, which is why I didn't jump out of my seat when that came down against Jeffrey Simmons. Now, you're right. The call on the Falcons and on the Chiefs over the weekend, they one-upped each other, right? You thought the Jarrett one was bad.
Yep.
And then Chris Jones tackling Carr from behind, a sack fumble. He recovered the ball. It was just utterly absurd. Speaking of egregious calls, so during Titans games, I'm monitoring the games around the league, and I'm doing the scoreboard updates throughout the broadcast. So I'm monitoring the Browns-Chargers game. And I see, the Chargers have it, 4th and 1. On their own 45-yard line, minute 13 to go. They're winning 30-28 at the Cleveland Browns. Oh, and they're going to go for it. I remember seeing that situation pop up and thinking, is Brandon Staley about to Brandon Staley? And Brandon Staley. And then upon further review, when I look back and I actually see the replay, I see that it was really a 4th and 2. It was about 1.8 yards.
Mm-hmm.
They'd been running the ball for well over 200 yards on the day. Austin Eckler had a massive game in Cleveland. They had been averaging 7 yards per carry, but it's a drop-back pass, and Justin Herbert throws a pass into the right flat intended for Mike Williams. That is blanket coverage by Emerson, the corner for Cleveland. Incomplete. Browns take over essentially a few yards away from field goal range. Now, they missed the kick. The Chargers win the game, but Brandon Staley, I will not let him get off that easy. He continues to be my dumbest thing in sports this week when he continues to make these decisions. As he put it in a lengthy piece with The Athletic in the offseason, we're going to win on our terms, we're going to lose on our terms. Well, they did a lot of losing on their terms last season, and it knocked them out of the playoffs. A team that has no business being outside of the playoff picture. And I just see it trending in that same way. That's fine, Brandon Staley. You want to lose on your terms by making decisions like going for it on 4th and 2 in your own territory when you have a lead and you can punt it and pin them with a minute to go rather than give them the football in field goal range? That's fine. Lose on your terms, and we'll see you outside of the playoffs.
Yeah, you'll be losing a job at some point.
Yeah. 615-737-1045. We go to Jason with the dumbest thing in sports this week. Hello, Jason.
Hey, guys. Well, you kind of sold me on the one with Chris Jones, but I was going to add the dumbest thing in sports. If you can still call him the sports, but Antonio Brown with the lead suing and him exposing himself to all the guests in the hotel room, like that stuff is going so far. Like, can we just not even put Antonio Brown on any kind of news feed anymore? Just stun him from any kind of ESPN or sports throughout the world.
Yeah, thanks for the call, Jason. Antonio Brown, perpetually the dumbest thing in sports.
Ooh, he is, as they say, off the reservation.
Eric is next on 104.5 The Zone. Eric, what you got?
Well, I have to come up with another one because you stole the one I was going to say, which was Brandon Staley. But one is the referees from this perspective in the Titans game. 2 calls. One, a call that was made, the roughing the passer call on Jeffrey Simmons, which I thought was a horrendous call. But the other one is, if you remember earlier in the game, when I think it was Tannehill was sacked for the second time in the game, the defensive lineman for Washington ripped off his helmet and ran off the field. He should have been called for unsportsmanlike conduct penalty and a 15-yard penalty, which that would have kept the drive alive. The referees missed that because the commentators commented on that, and so did the referee, Gene Steratore, that was on site for that game between the Commanders and the Titans. So the referees for those 2 calls. Guys, y'all take care and have a great day.
Yeah, thanks for the call, Eric.
And that Christian Fulton DPI towards the end of the game, too.
They got that notice.
That's 3
they got
right
that
there.
letter from the NFL. Robert, what you got, man?
I got to go with the Panthers as a whole.
Just organizationally.
Now look.
Is David Tepper the dumbest thing in sports?
David Tepper is very close. Now, let me paint you a little background picture. When David Tepper was brought on, or actually bought on as the new owner, he came into the press conference with his shirt wide open, that bearskin rug he calls chest hair flaring out.
Oh, boy.
And he told everyone that things were going to change, and things were going to start with Matt Rule. Fast forward 4 years later, he walks out into a press conference, yells at the media who had to sit through your awful 4 seasons of what you set them up for. You brought in a guy with no NFL experience. Then he ashames the fans, saying, we don't have a winning culture. We never had a winning culture. Like 2016 never happened. And I'm not a Panthers fan, mind you. And he also fired everyone. He fired everyone aside from Ben McAdoo, who led Baker Mayfield, who I don't think's a bad quarterback. If you look at the games he's playing and not just the box score, it's been a lot of circumstantial things and not necessarily him making bad plays. It's hard to throw when 3 grown men are smacking you in the face. He has had the worst QBR in NFL history aside from one man, Jamarcus Russell. So
wow.
They've had 5 quarterbacks in the last 5 seasons. They even brought Cam back in with no tread on the tires. The Panthers are, and will continue to be until they change something in my mind, the dumbest thing in sports. You can't have a bad owner.
He gave Matt Rule, to your
Right.
point, a
Yeah.
guy with no professional coaching experience, a 7-year contract.
Well, not only that, but the roster control aspect of it. That was the unprecedented part of it. I mean, Matt Rule, and that's been done before, but Matt Rule, because when Nick Saban got to the NFL, he had a heavy hand in the decisions the Dolphins were making, and Saban had been coaching for a long, long time. He had coached in the NFL as an assistant with the Oilers, as a defensive coordinator under Bill Belichick, and that obviously didn't work out for him. But Matt Rule had a stint as an assistant with the New York Giants, and beyond that, he was a program builder at the college football level, and he probably will continue to be. And whoever hires him at his next stop will be getting a very good college football coach. But to give him that type of control with an NFL franchise was negligent from David Tepper. And I think he did acknowledge that, I think, as the mistake that he made along the way.
And honestly, even staff control. If you look at his original staff he brought Phil Snow from Baylor, no NFL play calling experience. Brought Joe Brady in, who everybody heralded as the next big head coach. Fired. Now he's a QB coach with the Buffalo Bills. Probably the easiest job in the NFL. What are you going to teach Josh Allen, buddy?
Well, it's shown in over and over again, especially in the NFL, guys that have so much control and power, it doesn't, I'll give you a prime example. You guys are younger, but you probably remember when Mike Holmgren became a talent evaluator and personnel guy as well as the head coach of the Green Bay Packers. It proved to be too much. You're spinning plates. You got too much going on. And when you should really kind of stay in your coaching lane, and listen, I still contend it's one of the main reasons why the Dallas Cowboys won't win a championship anytime as long as Jerry Jones is the owner of the Cowboys, because he's the general manager too. He's so loyal and loves his product so much to a fault.
I want to say I hate it for Matt Rule, but I don't, because he made $40 million off it, and he's going
to get mailbox money for the next 4 years.
And he's he's straight to the top of college football coaching hot board. So he's going to be fine, but great submission there by Robert. Take more of your calls. Talk to Mr. Monday Night. Keith Bullock joins us next on 104.5 The Zone. David Long, the game-sealing interception on Sunday. KB knows something about inside linebackers picking off the football. Keith Bullock when we come back. It's the Buck Reising Show on 104.5 The Zone.
The Buck Reising Show is powered by Spring Hill Heating and Cooling. Go to springhillac.com.
That is Titans linebacker David Long doing his best Keith Bullock impression. Mike Keith and Coach Mack on the call. Lucas Panzica, Rhett Bryan with you on 104.5 The Zone. And Mr. Monday Night joins us now. Keith, how you doing, man?
Doing great. How's that for you guys?
Oh, we can't complain coming off of that Sunday win. Titans 21-17 in Washington, 3 in a row heading into the bye week. Keith, could you take me through that game-winning interception on what we thought was the final play of the game? They called everybody back, made the Titans run one more to finish out the last few seconds. But from David Long's perspective, could you take us through that final play?
Yeah, I mean, I'll try my best. But just from listening to hearing what David Long said in his post-game interview, he said he knew the play was coming. So, I think he played it great because he played physical through the first route, which was McLaren. He was setting up for a spot, which was actually a pick because Wentz was trying to squeeze it into that second window, which was the running back running the angle route out of the backfield. And I believe if David Long Jr. didn't fight through that pick and actually make the pick, he might have had a better opportunity with the running back settling right in front of Christian Fulton at the inside the end zone. So David Long Jr., that just shows, man, his football IQ, especially around the goal line. They only run a certain amount of plays, and they're you got to be prepared. So his football IQ and his game day preparation is definitely stepped up. And when you make plays like that, it's just obvious.
Should David Long, KB, should he have gotten down? Because that's the first thing that Big Jeff said to Amy Wells to us in postgame is like, man, I'm tired. I'm having to run all the way down here. He said he should have gotten down. Would that have been a Keith Bullock move, is to get down after you made the pick?
Nah, we try to take it to the house, man. I was told,
that's the KB I know.
Yeah, so Murray Rose told me my rookie year, he made that interception against Washington at the end of the half, and everybody was telling him to go down, go down, go down. And he told me, he's like, well, they call me Bullock. He's like, Bullock, anytime you get the opportunity with the ball, you got to scope. So we're always trying to scope.
Keith Bullock with us on 104.5 The Zone.
Nah, let's not do that.
So one of the things that we were talking earlier in the show about what we're surprised at by this Titans team this season, and my answer was the vast improvement of third down defense. They're the number one team in the NFL on third down, I think 29% under 30% allowed. What would be your takeaway as one of the surprises through 5 games?
Just the way that they're fighting. Every year you start the season, you have certain expectations based off the previous year, and every year is a totally new year. You have to start over, start from the beginning, and you really find out. A lot of teams find out they're different and they're not who they really thought they were. Obviously the Bills are playing well, Kansas City, those teams that are, that were right there in it last year. As the Titans were too, but unfortunately, they're battling through injuries again, and who's to say they won't be right there again? But their head is above water. Everyone was on them the way they came out of the gate. But I'm just impressed about the way that they fight. And, Mike Vrabel has kind of built his teams like that off the Mike Mularkey foundation, because I believe this team right now, obviously, are some remnants of that Mike Mularkey team who initially made that first playoff run when no one was thinking much of them. And the thing is, they've been up for so many years, but they still have that nucleus, that core, that foundation that, they're going to fight and claw in any game. Certain games, they might be outmanned, outmatched. Obviously, we saw that in Buffalo. But who's to say the second half of the season they won't be prepared for those type teams and have a game plan better than the one they had against Buffalo.
KB, just how unique is the way the Titans are using guys like Tier Tart and Jeffrey Simmons in pass defense? Like, does it just really stick out to us because they make a goal line play in Washington, or are they doing some things that we're not quite used to?
It probably sticks out because of Washington and Tierra Tart. The guys a lot of pass deflections, and they're active. You're always taught as D linemen, get your hands up in the pass game, and those men have been able to. And Tierra Tart being in his, I believe, third year or so, he's making a big impact. And it's usually when that happens is when a player is in their third year. They've pretty much been in just about every scenario that they can be in as a football player, and they settle in and come into their own and, want to get that payday as well as make plays in the NFL. So I think that's what you're seeing. And when you got somebody like Jeffrey Simmons and with the motor he has, I think the most impressive 2 plays he had was when he ran down all the way downfield and tackled the wide receiver. And then the very next play held Carson Wentz to maybe like 1 yard gain or maybe even yard gain on back-to-back plays, back-to-back hustle plays. And then the third play, he didn't even come out. He rushed the passer again. So, he's definitely pushing those guys up front, and they're going off his engine.
Former Titans linebacker Keith Bullock with us on 104.5 The Zone. No Titans Tonight happening today. Titans radio programming on pause until they get back from the bye week. So now your chance to hear from Mr. Monday Night. KB, bye week 5 weeks in, it's relatively early. How would you approach the bye week in your playing days? And does that approach change whatsoever with it being after 5 weeks rather than after 8 or 9 or 12?
No, I mean, strategically you would rather have it later, but as a player, they've been going since the end of July, so it being the middle of, October 12th or whatever it is, they're definitely ready to get away. So some guys will obviously do things with their family. Some guys will, take some time to rehab. And then I was the type of guy that I was fortunate that I was never hurt in bye week. I would always get away. So I would always go do something fun and just totally get away from football.
Keith Bullock, let me ask you this, because this was not as much a thing in your playing days for the Two-Tone Blue. Are you surprised? Do you still scratch your head like I do? I'm like, they're running screen games on the offense. And you guys never ran a ton of screens, but, it was always kind of a joke. It's like, oh, they're not running screens. But just to see that in this offense, is that kind of weird for you?
Not really, because when you think about it, Derrick Henry, he's about, what you're going to get, and then now in year 7, year 8, whatever year he's in, you got to be more creative. You want to try, different ways to get that guy to hit the home run. And, from what you've seen in his past years, people don't like to be in space with him, and he dominates in space. So if you can get him out in space, get him going, that's just another wrinkle that they've added to their offense. Kind of like, Dinger would do that with Eddie a little bit, when I first got here, and he was later in his career. And they definitely, Chris Johnson obviously is a different style back, but those bigger backs, it throws the defense off a little bit because you don't expect him. And when he can get it clean, like you've seen, and get going, that's a 15-plus yard gain.
I'm glad you mentioned Derrick Henry because that was kind of the next progression for me, question-wise, is that before he got hurt last Halloween in Indianapolis, he was on pace to obliterate his receptions and yardage in his career because he never was really asked to do that at Alabama, and he had been asked to do that his first few years as a Titan. And he prides himself in working on that part of it. Now, he's hard on himself, when he has drops, but I've been impressed by how they've been able to work him in that aspect of the game so far. What's your impressions of 22 in that aspect?
Well, I think he's taking that part of his game serious. I think that he's realizing that, look, if the defense are going to do these, like stack the box and these different things to stop me, and they're not going to really respect me in the passing game, he's doing other things to get out and be more of a part of the passing game, get out into his route. People are talking about the tight ends a lot. Why aren't they throwing more to the tight ends? Well, tight ends sometimes are used as extra blockers and have to stay in and give Tannehill that time. So when Derrick seems like he knows this year he's getting out in that passing route faster, and you see that in the checkdowns and in the swing passes, and that's actually helping Ryan Tannehill. That's actually helping him. It just gives the defense more to think about, more to worry about, because now it's like, oh, snap, Derrick Henry's catching passes now, so you got to really worry about where he is at all times.
And you saw that early in the Washington game, right? The fake screen to Henry to the right and then set it up for Hilliard on the left. One block and he scores the first touchdown of the game for the Titans. So you're right. Teams are having to respect it more, but are they doing anything differently to set that up? I mean, Rhett pointed out how he was sort of picking up steam with that part of his game before the injury in 2021. But do you see anything differently with how Todd Downing is trying to put Henry in position to catch the football more?
Not really. It's only, there's only so many plays in the NFL, and you can run as many different wrinkles as you want. It's going to be the same thing. I like what you just brought up. They ran a wrinkle to someone else off of that screen action to Derrick Henry, so that's something different. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a tight end screen start to get in here. So I think Todd Downing is doing a great job of introducing his screen package. So you'll see a bunch of different screens as the season goes to keep these defenses honest. And now you see that you bring up Hilliard. He has the ability to, make plays in the passing game. The more opportunities he gets, the more plays he makes, the more confidence he'll start to get in himself and see himself as a guy that can really be a game changer.
Keith Bullock with us on 104.5 The Zone. KB, last thing for me, Blaine mentioned on Monday when we're reacting to that win in Washington, he said, Blaine Bishop saying he's seeing Derrick Henry do things he has never seen him do in the way he's running the football, the way he's navigating in space, jump cuts, trying to be a little bit shiftier. Do you feel in any sort of similar way? Does it look like he's running the ball differently this season?
Yeah, he's running with a little bit more attitude. He's running like he has, like something to prove. He shows in a little bit more agility. I've seen a couple of runs where he's coming downhill and he'll get hit and he'll spin and keep his feet. And, he's not that he was ever clumsy, but he's more nimble this year for a bigger back than he's been in the past. And then I would say his swag meter is up a little bit, taking his helmet off, pounding his chest. Derrick Henry don't do that, but you do once you're that guy, and he's been that guy for a few years now. And I think that he's back to let people know that, I'm back and I got some more tools in my toolbox. And by the end of the year, I'm going to still have them crazy numbers that you're used to seeing.
Keith, we'd be remiss if we didn't say, I'd say part of your bye weekend in having some time away is that your Syracuse Orange has a massive matchup this weekend against NC State, and your guys hadn't lost a game yet, so you got a lot of vested interest in this.
Yeah, you know what, I do, yes, and they're playing great, but I'm not drinking the Kool-Aid. Now, on the other hand, what I listen to you guys on the radio every show, and it's like all the different shows on 104.5. You UT fans, y'all need to start getting some confidence in your team.
There you go.
You guys are going like, we might, I don't like, look, from what I'm hearing, UT hasn't won at 15, Alabama's won 15 straight?
Yep.
Correct.
You guys UT has a very, very, very impressive team. Very impressive team. Alabama almost lost last week. They're on the ropes. They're coming in to Rocky Top, which I've never been, and I got a lot of friends from UT, and I've still never been, but that's neither here nor there. Conversation for another time. Y'all need to go ahead and take it. They coming to your stadium. Y'all about to start make me act like Ron Slay in here. But look, University of Tennessee fans, y'all need to own this opportunity. You need to own this opportunity to go out there and bust Alabama's ass. That's it. It's that simple. And have the confidence that your team is going to get it done. Because even if they don't, they're going to give it their best shot. And it looks better when you go in with confidence.
Mr. Monday Night Motivation. There
Damn,
it is.
KB. I was going to ask you about Syracuse, too. I did not expect that to turn into a hype message for Tennessee fans, man. Now, you played Tennessee during your time at Syracuse, right? That 1998 season?
Yeah.
I think that was the season opener at Syracuse. What do you think about this offense and just your perspective as an inside linebacker from your playing days on what it would be like to go up against this Heupel offense?
It would be tough. One, because they're tempo, and they have a quarterback that controls the offense. And what I mean by that, sometimes he might come out a little erratic with some throws in the beginning, but it's from what I've seen. Once he gets warmed up and dialed in, it's over. And then Jalen Hyatt, is that his name?
Yeah.
Hyatt. I like him because who's the wide receiver that's out? I'm not a VFL. I'm a BAA.
No, I got you.
Balls are all right. You know what I'm saying? So the wide receiver that's out, he's supposed to be the man, but you have other people stepping up in his place. So when he come back, they're gonna be even deadlier. And then the running back was balling last week, and that's giving the O-line confidence. Okay, we're protecting Hendon. Oh, now we want to run. All right, let's run. And they got that tempo. So on defense, them big linemen. D-linemen, they trying to get out of there. Not everybody got a motor like Big Jeff that can just go like 6-7 plays in a row. So they trying to get out of there. So that's when you strike. Once you got their big dogs out of there, you're going to throw that thing deep. And the hooker, touchdown. Let's go.
I don't know if Slay's listening to all that from KB about the Vols, but I almost hope he's not, because if he is, he probably just drove his car off the road in excitement.
He's blowing a gasket, right?
Yeah,
yes,
I don't know if he can process that right now, KB. Hey,
no, but that's real. That's real.
Yeah.
Like, just listening and just watching and seeing, and that's real. Like, you gotta go, y'all are gonna win. That's it. Alabama, take a back seat this year. It's all right, baby.
KB, appreciate the time, man. Safe travels. Enjoy the bye week, and good luck to your Syracuse Orange against NC State.
I appreciate it. Anytime. Maybe I'll start drinking the Kool-Aid if they win this one.
There we go.
Just a different shade of orange. That's
Thanks,
all it is,
KB.
man.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, KB. Keith Bullock, Titans legend, with us on 104.5 The Zone. His team is 5-0. They're playing NC State. It's a huge game, top 18 matchup. They haven't lost yet. It's an ACC matchup. And then he goes on a tangent. He said, never mind Syracuse.
And I love his line. He said, I'm not a VFL. I'm a VAA. The Vols are all right.
Love it. Keith Bullock on 104.5 The Zone. Let's get into this matchup. Tennessee, Alabama on Saturday. I see Dave. I see Carson on the line. We'll get to your phone calls. We'll talk third Saturday in October. It's the Buck Reising Show on 104.5 The Zone.
That was great. Yeah, KB's good. KB is a good.
Did not have KB going nuts for the ball.
No, not at all.
Yeah, they always say that for live. KB bringing the heat. We asked Keith Bullock about his Syracuse Orange, who are 5-0 under Dino Babers, the number 18 team in the country, hosting NC State in a big ACC matchup. And he said, never mind the Orange.
Vols fans, own it.
How about the Vols?
Own it. Have confidence. You're going to win.
Lucas Panzica, Rhett Bryan with you on 104.5 The Zone. Robert Walsh at the keys, playing the hits, 615-737-1045. We go to Carson, who is on the line, I believe, still with a dumbest thing in sports this week. Carson?
Yeah, guys, I sat through that interview just staying on the line just because this is too dumb to pass up.
Oh.
I was watching that dumpster fire that they called Thursday Night Football last week, and it was 6-6 in the third quarter, and Al Michaels says, sometimes a game can be so bad it's almost good. You know what I'm saying? And Kirk Herbstreit just says no. And it was followed up by a Colts pass for -5 yards, and then Matt Ryan threw an interception the next play. I'm just loving the season that the Colts are having.
Thanks for the call, Carson. That's fantastic. Appreciate the Colts for following that Al Michaels remark there with the negative play and then a turnover. That was an atrocity, and the good thing is, if you enjoy watching football on Thursday nights, you're in luck because the Bears and Commanders play this Thursday on Amazon Prime. Paul is in Franklin to talk about the third Saturday in October. What's up, Paul?
What's going on, brother? How y'all doing?
Doing great.
Just let me go on it. I've been wanting to call 2 or 3 days. Been busy. My brother Keith Bullock brought it. I am the ball master. I am the ball king. I call all the time. I knew what this Tennessee ball team was made of. But let me tell you one thing right now. All these old trepidation ball fans, even some of the announcers, all y'all, let me just put it to you like this right here. If that backup quarterback, what's his name, Milroe for Alabama, if he plays, they will not beat Tennessee. Tennessee will beat them if he plays. But give me the 8 points, and I'm going to win the game outright. And as far as Bryce Young, great quarterback, great young man. He's no better of a great young man than Double H. Oh, Double H, Hendon Hooker is another great young man. But they have to play Bryce Young. And let me just tell you this right here, my friend. Just because they play Bryce Young, don't mean they're going to beat Tennessee neither. Because we are going to generate a pass rush. We are coming to that young man, and he is going to eat dirt. Now, Tennessee has to be balanced. We have to be able to run the ball when we need to run the ball. We have to be able to, Double H has to be able to run the ball and with first down with his legs. And the key to the game is our offensive line has to give him time, and I believe they will. I think the Ball Nation will show up. There will be 100,000 Rabbit Ball fans, and we will take it because it's time to break that streak. God bless you, and go Big Off.
Paul in Franklin, dropping the mic.
Wow. Paul's fired up, man, and it's just Wednesday at 11:52 in America's Music City.
11:52.
I bet his wife is so tired of him. His wife is probably like, go play in the street, Paul.
Hey, Paul, why don't you take a permanent vacation?
Tennessee fans with actual confidence, like real actual confidence, is a sight to behold. We've seen that 100%. This week. I think it's only going to keep going up. But Paul and Franklin, amidst all that, made some good points. Tennessee's got to keep Hendon Hooker upright.
That's one of the biggest keys to this thing.
Huge key to the game. I think Tennessee, if you swap out Texas A&M and you put Tennessee on that field last Saturday, I think Tennessee wins that game. I think Tennessee 100% wins that game, but that's not the case this Saturday, or we don't know whether or not that's the case this Saturday. You just get the feeling that they held Bryce Young out of that game against Texas A&M so that he could play against Tennessee. And that's just pure speculation, and seeing him in full pads and going through warm-ups and just the way Nick Saban's been talking about it. By the way, Nick Saban said today on the SEC teleconference that Bryce Young has been practicing some and obviously declined to give any sort of update on his status for Saturday's game.
And why would he?
There's no reason to.
Right.
No reason to. I mean, when you were growing up in Tennessee, what do you remember just about the tenor of the third Saturday in October? Because, you know, growing up in your time here when you were in high school and then fresh out of high school and college, as opposed to someone, my age that's born in 95. And the last time I saw Tennessee beat Alabama, I was in 5th grade. I mean, what do you remember about the conversation, the yearly conversation around that game when it would come along?
Well, it was much tug of war back and forth, and obviously there's been streaks back and forth because, again, there were times when Tennessee had the right foot in the right shoe and Alabama was on the other side of this through the Mike Dubose, Dennis Francione, and Mike Shula years. So, but yeah, it's always been a big thing. I don't care who you are. I mean, Bama fans may dismiss it and say, nah, yeah, bless your heart. We won 15 in a row. It's not really a rivalry. It definitely is. It goes back to the days of General Neyland back in the 30s. But yeah, it was always appointment radio to hear John Ward that Saturday, the 3rd Saturday in October, and just, to listen to him narrate this story and the ebbs and flows and the ups and downs. And, I talked earlier in the show about the 93 year when they tied them 17 all. Well, 2 years later, they hadn't beaten them outright since 1985. And this is, Peyton's sophomore year. He hits Joey Kent on the first play at 80-yard score. And it was a rout that day. And, that was in their backyard. So, I mean, there's no question what it means. There's no question history. It's always something you look forward to regardless. And look, the last 15 years, okay, maybe not as much, but it's a huge deal.
Well, that's the thing. That game, 95, Peyton Manning to Joey Kent, the route, and I guess that game was at Birmingham. I don't even think that game was in Tuscaloosa. But either way, I believe that started an 8-year streak for Tennessee. It's always been a very streaky rivalry.
Yes.
But never to this extent. And 15 years in a row now for Alabama. It's the longest streak in the rivalry's history. I mean, just to give you an idea, Alabama leads the all-time series 58-38 with 8 ties. Before Nick Saban was hired at Alabama, Bama still led that series, but it was 43-38.
Yeah.
A 5-game differential.
Right.
Nick Saban made it to where an entire generation of people don't consider this a rivalry.
Right.
That's crazy, which is why the pent-up, mixture of frustration and nervousness, but confidence at the same time from Tennessee fans has never been greater or bigger than it is going into this matchup because of just what Saban has done to this series.
I mean, how old were you the last time they beat them 16 years ago?
In 2006, I would have been 11.
Yeah.
11 years old.
There it is right there.
Or about to turn 11.
Right.
It's crazy.
There it is right there.
I do remember that game.
But yeah, as a kid, and now, I'm much older than you. Now, a kid in the late 70s, early 80s, seeing Bear Bryant go against Tennessee, I'm like, yep, this, when the man walked out there in the houndstooth fedora, you're like, okay, it's showtime. Here we go.
This matchup, the conversation around this matchup going in is different. And you can tell it's different by the way Nick Saban is talking about it. And we'll show you what I mean when we come back. It's the Buck Reising Show on 104.5 The Zone.
From the Superbook.com sports desk, I'm Robert Walsh. The Atlanta Braves trailed 7-1 after the top of the fifth inning and rallied all the way back to 7-6 with 3 runs in the bottom of the ninth, courtesy of a 3-run homer from Matt Olson, but the rally fell short. The Phils lead the best-of-5 divisional series 1-0 with Game 2 today at 3:35 in Atlanta. The Yankees beat the Guardians 4-1. The Dodgers packed up the Padres 5-3. And in the NFL, the Minnesota Vikings have signed VFL Theo Jackson from the Titans practice squad. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Nick Saban has had to answer a lot of questions about the Alabama-Tennessee rivalry over the years. He's had to fend off a lot of the rat poison that he's always talking about when preparing for these matchups against Tennessee. Welcome in, by the way. I'm Lucas Panzica, hanging out with Rhett Bryan, Titans Radio, Robert Walsh, our producer. And it's so often, Rhett, that Saban is convincing media members that his team has to play well to win, because he's fielding questions like, well, do you hope to bench your starters by the fourth quarter and the like, which he absolutely hates. But things are a little bit different in 2022 when Tennessee hosts Alabama on Saturday, number 6 Tennessee, the number 3 Alabama Crimson Tide. So give me your reaction to how you think Nick Saban views this challenge in Tennessee when you hear him talking about this year's edition of the Tennessee-Alabama rivalry. Okay.
An outstanding team. They're undefeated. Josh has done a really, really good job there. Probably one of the most explosive offenses, if not the most explosive offense, in the country. They've got really good wide receivers. 4 guys have lots of production. They've got 2 really good running backs, lots of production. The quarterback, Hooker is, really done a nice job of executing their offense. He's one of the leading pass efficiency guys in the country, as well as has the ability to extend plays and make plays with his feet. He's a very good athlete all the way around, and has had an outstanding year. Their defense is, one of the top defensive teams, especially in terms of creating negative plays and making people difficult for them to score. 17 points a game is, really good and one of the tops in the SEC. And they're always really solid with their specialists and on special teams. So this is a really, really good team, a real challenge for us. And our priority has to be, we got to get it right ourselves, and so that we do a better job of putting ourselves in positions of having a chance to be successful. And when we do that, we got to take advantage of it.
What does that sound like to you? How does Nick Saban view this Tennessee football team?
Well, I mean, it's the typical coach speak, complimentary. Hey, they got a lot of guys and they do all this, but he's kind of gritting his teeth as he's doing it, because he's maybe in a position he hasn't quite been in before.
So in 2017, Tennessee had its worst season in program history, a 4-win season for the first time ever. They go 4-8. Butch Jones is fired after the Missouri game in November. But they limp into the Alabama matchup 3-3, having just gotten blown out by Georgia at home and losing to South Carolina. And they go into number 1 Alabama. Here's Nick Saban the week leading up to the Tennessee-Alabama matchup in 2017.
I think you all, like always, you're always looking for all these assumptions that you make because they have issues, they have problems of some kind of way. Why can't that be a great motivating factor for them and they come and play their best game of the year? Y'all ever think of that? Or just, so you can look at the glass half empty or half full, not to get to the Coke bottle.
So he gestures to the famous Coke bottle on the podium. So that right there tells you everything you need to know about the difference in this Tennessee-Alabama matchup versus what we've had in the conversation, the lead up to Tennessee-Alabama games in the last 15 years.
Yeah, because in 2017, he didn't even talk about the opponent in that cut.
He's just desperately trying to stop the media from, you could probably get 2 out of there by the third quarter, right? Just desperately trying to keep his team motivated against a horrible Tennessee football team.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, pun intended, he's afraid the tide is turning.
Well, that tells you everything you need to know. But on a real note, I mean, we know this is a different matchup. And one thing that Tennessee absolutely has to do, as Michael in the YouTube chat says, Bama's still going to roll. I want to see more Bama fans engaging this week. I feel like they've taken a little bit of a back seat, and the Vols' confidence has just dominated the conversation. And Zone TV, by the way, where you can hang out with us, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch, 615-737-1045 to join us. I want to hear more of how Bama fans feel about this game.
I don't think they're worried about it. I think we've done this 15 years in a row. What's another year? I think they've gotten used to dynasty.
I'd be interested to hear from some more Alabama fans this week in the lead up to Saturday's kickoff. But the big thing in this game for me, if there's one thing that Tennessee absolutely must do against Alabama to stay in the game, to keep it a fourth quarter game and keep the crowd in it the whole way, they've got to be able to protect Hendon Hooker against this Alabama pass rush. When you think about and you look ahead to the 2023 NFL draft, who is the first defensive player that comes to mind for you and all the prep that you're going to be doing for Titans Radio? And I know there's probably a lot of names swimming around. We're in the middle of the Titans season, but where does Will Anderson stack up for you?
He's got to be up there. I mean, he leads the team in their 5 quarterback sacks for them. In a team that I think only has, 18 sacks for about 122 yards of loss. So, I mean, he's got to be way up there in the conversation because he's a game changer, a game breaker.
So Alabama has the second most sacks in the league this year with 18 in the SEC. Will Anderson terrorized that A&M front all game long on Saturday. 8 of their 14 quarterback hurries attributed to him. No sacks. So the attention teams are paying to Will Anderson is opening up opportunities for guys like Dallas Turner, guys like Chris Braswell, and that Alabama pass rush has turned into a nightmare for opposing teams. And it's crazy to think about what it would be if Drew Sanders still played for Alabama, the Arkansas linebacker that leads the SEC in sacks with 7, who transferred over from Alabama. That's a terrifying thought for a lot of people. If he had stayed, he would be a starter on this Alabama team. But he's not, and Alabama has what they do as far as outside linebackers and pass rush goes. But Tennessee has given up 8 sacks this season. That's 5th best in the SEC. Now, the best front they have faced was against LSU, and that was their best pass blocking performance of the season, keeping Hendon Hooker upright for all but one play where he's hit on a corner blitz that doesn't go down as a sack because the running back who missed the block, Dylan Sampson, scoops it up and advances it for a few yards.
That's a pretty good tune-up considering what they're going into at Neyland on Saturday. But it, without a doubt, I think is the most important part of this is keeping him upright because the genesis of this offense goes through him. It clearly does. And I really feel like I go back to what Keith Bullock said last hour when we had him on here on Buck Show, just talking about what a slog that's going to be for these big defensive linemen and how many reps are going to – and just the express, the hurry up, and them run 70, 80, 90 plays a game where at some point that wears a guy down a little bit. I think so the expediency of going from play to play may be something that helps in keeping the Wolves away from the door. Certainly excellent pass blocking is key, number one. But I think they can do that. But, yeah, Will Anderson, and you're right. God, if that other kid was still there and not at Arkansas, that might even be a tougher, taller task. I mean, it's going to be tough any way you dice it, but I think the way the offense runs helps Hendon Hooker in that.
I think the biggest thing, too, is this offense does not sub a lot. I mean, they play 3 receivers essentially the whole game for the most part. So that's where you see the hands on hips for defensive linemen is when they're moving down the field. They're not subbing. They're not allowing the defense to sub. and it'll be interesting to see how Alabama kind of deals with that test. We asked and they answered, Rhett, Alabama fans joining the show. 615-737-1045. Bama JC in Springfield is up first on 1045 The Zone. Bama JC, how you doing?
Hey, check it out, man. There's literally not much to talk about here. I called yesterday to 3HL. I called this morning to Mr. Foster. Look, you want us to call y'all and ask and like instigate this rivalry further, but like literally the past 15 years, the island of relevancy has been quite comfortable without some orange involved. Now all of a sudden y'all want to play the rivalry game. That's cool. That's totally fine. And you know what I just got to say about that? Your first three AP poll wins, the pass rush has not been there. Those teams were not Alabama. Alabama is not Pittsburgh. They're definitely not an up-and-coming LSU. And Jaden Daniels is not even a bummed-up Bryce Young. Got to slow it down there, Tennessee. Let's wait till Monday. You want the rivalry to begin? We're going to start with Saturday, all right?
Thanks for the call, JC. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
that's what I want. 615-737-1045. The calls are lining up. Quick break. We'll get straight back to your phone calls when we return. It's the Buck Reising Show on 1045 The Zone.
Fall is officially upon us, but that joint pain, it's still hanging around. Hey, it's Buck Reising, and I want you to call QC Kinetics right now because you've put it off for too long. It's time to get real lasting relief from chronic pain in your knees, back, shoulder, hips, wherever you experience it. QC Kinetics, they can get you moving again with cutting-edge regenerative treatments. No drugs, no downtime, and no surgery. Regenerative medicine uses highly concentrated healing properties from your own body to restore and repair damaged joint tissue. And QC Kinetics is the nation's leader in this exciting breakthrough natural approach to eliminating joint pain. Lots of people here in Middle Tennessee have done this, and they are living life to the fullest, pain-free. So don't assume that the old ways of dealing with joint pain are the only ways. Call QC Kinetics today. 615-249-4024. That's 615-249-4024.
to
The Buck Reising Show is powered by Spring Hill Heating and Cooling. Go to springhillac.com.
No Buck Reising today. It's probably why it sounds so much better. Friendlier, more inviting,
Well, it
more
sounds
relatable.
better with the late, great Bill Withers right there coming in and bump music.
Doesn't
That's
hurt.
some great stuff right there.
Robert Walsh making it happen.
Yes,
Lucas Panzica,
indeed.
Rhett Bryan with you on this Wednesday. We asked and you delivered the third Saturday in October on Saturday. We wanted to hear from some more Alabama fans. Been a lot of Tennessee confidence this week, which is great, but I want to hear both sides of the coin. 615-737-1045. We left with JC in the last segment, so we come back with Andrew in Portland, who has a response to Bama fan JC. Good afternoon, Andrew.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. You are right, Lucas. I was wondering what made the show sound so much better, and it's because one Buck Reising is not here. So,
couldn't agree more.
Continue to try to take over the show because, let's be honest, you run it anyways. Listen, Bama JC, listen, I heard you yesterday. I heard you this morning, and you keep calling in and you keep referencing the 15 years. That's the argument that you make when you really don't have a leg to stand on. Listen, the 15 years, like Josh Heupel said about the Florida rivalry, doesn't make a difference for what's going to happen this year. It has no relevance whatsoever. And this team has that mindset. You saw it against Florida where we actually closed that game out. And it's very similar, and it's been lopsided for a while. So that argument is irrelevant. Find a new one because come Saturday, the Vols, I don't care if it's Bryce Young or Milroe or whoever it is. The Vols, if nothing else, are going to be competitive, and I put my money where my mouth is. The Vols will win Saturday because at the end of the day, this is a new team and a new program on Rocky Top. So I don't know if y'all got it queued up, but somebody please play me some Rocky Top and get Bama JC out of here. See you, fellas.
Thanks for the call, Andrew.
Well done, sir.
We do have Oscars music for you. We did Rocky Top once earlier in the show.
I'd like to thank the Academy. I'd like to thank my producer.
But thank you for the call.
Yes.
You love me. You really love me.
I am just floored right now.
Oh, Nick in Brentwood has a question on 104.5 The Zone. Hello, Nick.
Good afternoon, Middle Tennessee.
Good afternoon.
Thanks for taking my phone call. This show is sounding better than ever. You guys know why. Keep up the good work. Anyways, real quick, I'm trying to explain this game to a girl that I'm kind of talking to, and I'm excited for it. I actually think Alabama's going to win a close game. It's going to be such a great atmosphere, maybe the best atmosphere on planet Earth. Like, literally, how could you explain this? Could you make an argument that this weekend's game is the best that planet Earth has to offer in the sporting arena, just when it comes to scope, when it just comes to, like, electricity and magnitude? Like, I think there's an argument this might be, and it's just so fun being in the SEC. I think this is the wrinkle that this conference needed. No more Mississippi State, Arkansas, like top 25. I think this is a great wrinkle. I just want to know if there's an argument for this being the best that planet Earth has to offer here in Tennessee right now. Thanks.
Thanks for the call, Nick. The best atmosphere on planet Earth. Now, on Saturday, I think there is an argument there. On Sunday, Barcelona and Real Madrid play El Clasico. Certainly more people will be watching that game, but you guys don't want to hear about that. But Nick in Brentwood has an argument. Robert, you told me you had some sage advice for Nick.
I do. All right. Since he's talking about this with a woman, with a girl that he classified this as he was kind of talking to, let me give you two pieces of advice. One, if for some reason the Vols do not win, you cannot pitch a hissy fit. Because I don't know what it is. That's like the biggest ick in the world for women. Because when I get mad at Ravens games and I'm hollering, my girlfriend's like, oh, that's so hot. I love when you yell about fake sports and you're crying about your fantasy team. So don't pitch a fit about it. But also, you could be somber. And I think being somber after a potential loss could end up getting you more play and a potential sympathy kiss on the cheek than anything else you could do this weekend. So play it close to the vest. Don't let them emotions run too high. And if you win, go on and give her a big smooch, man.
Now,
go ahead.
For Nick, let me say this, and I would agree with you that soccer rules the world. It does. So I think you have a point there. It might be one of the biggest games in the North American continent this weekend, though.
Yes, without a doubt.
when you think about it, though, there's a couple of NFL games a lot of people are going to be watching. One is the Bills at Kansas City.
Sunday Night Football.
And so, no, that's...
Oh, no, that's in the afternoon.
Yeah, that's the afternoon. And then Cowboys-Eagles on Sunday Night
That's
Football.
right.
So I'm saying there's some things there, but this certainly has its place this weekend in the sports world, period.
I think the atmosphere this Saturday will be unrivaled, just as far as the buzz
it will be electric. Yeah. It really will.
Philip is in Laverne next on 104.5 The Zone. Afternoon, Philip.
Hey, guys. How y'all doing?
Great.
That's awesome. Man, I just want to congratulate the UT Vols on doing such a great job, and Josh Heupel doing such a great job at keeping these guys humble. I love the fact that he's putting our wide receivers out on the edges of the out-of-bounds line and opening up the middle of the field. I got a little word of advice for Nick there. Nick, I used to talk to a girl that was an Alabama fan, and guess what? She ain't no longer part of my life, baby. Go Big Orange. We're going to win on Saturday. Let's go, baby.
Thanks for the call, Philip. As someone who has been dating an Alabama grad for 5 years, I have no comment.
He's
Picture to the
going to
curb.
abstain.
You think you could do that, though? Like, if your significant other, if you were dating somebody and you found out all of a sudden they're like, hey, what team you like? They're like, oh, I like the Colts. You know, I'm a really big Jim Irsay fan. Do you think you could keep it? You think you could keep it going with them?
That might be
well,
problematic.
that's two different things, Robert. Now, saying you're a Colts fan is one thing. You're from India. I'm a big Jim Irsay person. Like, I'm all in on Jim Irsay.
Post-game tweets.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you got to view that in two different lights. Being from Indy, being a Colts fan is one thing, but because of Jim Irsay, then you got another issue.
I like how red and sweaty he gets for no reason.
Oh, speaking of red and sweaty, another Bama fan, Mike in Nashville on 104.5 The Zone. Afternoon, Mike.
Hey, what's going on, fellas?
What's up?
So, true Bama fan here, but I'm going to tell you right now, any true Bama fan is scared to death of this weekend. This is the most death that Tennessee has had in a long time. We don't really have anybody on the outside to cover Hyatt except Kool-Aid, and Kool-Aid's not going to be able to even stop him. Hendon Hooker is a monster. Like I said, any true Alabama fan is scared of this weekend. That's all I got.
Thanks for the call, Mike.
Now, that's a little more insight to what I think, because you asked me that last segment. I'm like, you know what? I think true Bama fans might be a little nervous about this.
Yeah, I think they went into the A&M game because of the confidence that was taken into that Texas A&M game.
They lived through the Texas game, too, in week one.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like they've had some little roller coaster moments.
They've survived a couple of times this season. Now, the Texas game, certainly you have to ask the question, just like you asked the question, if Bryce Young plays, if he's healthy against Texas A&M, does Alabama cruise? Do they cover? I think the answer is unequivocally yes, because Bryce Young doesn't turn it over 3 times. But you can do that for the Texas game. Say if Quinn Ewers doesn't get hurt. By the way, amazing, not to look in the rear view too much, that Bama and Texas play each other for the first time since that 2009 national championship game, where the conversation since then has been, what if Colt McCoy didn't get hurt in the first quarter? Mm-hmm. And then in the first quarter in Austin, Quinn Ewers goes down. I mean, you just can't make that stuff up. But that's been a conversation this week. Hey, if Ewers doesn't get hurt against Alabama, what happens? Bama barely squeaked out of there.
Well, the age-old question for Bama fans that haunts their dreams is, what if when Nick Saban was with the Miami Dolphins that they were able to acquire Drew Brees as the quarterback? Because he's there more than 1 year, and all of a sudden the history books in Alabama are much, much different.
Last time Tennessee beat Alabama, Nick Saban was yelling at Miami media saying, no, I'm not the next coach of Alabama. Kurt in Hendersonville is next. 615-737-1045. Afternoon, Kurt.
Hey, good afternoon, guys.
What you got?
I have to say, can you hear me?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So one of my pet peeves, and I'm going to ask you what you think the over-under is going to be on the number of, I'm going to use air quotes here, cramps the Alabama defenders get when Tennessee gets on a roll.
Thanks for the call, Kurt. You know, we haven't seen that this season. We have not seen.
It's a valid question, though.
Sure.
It's a valid question, especially when we talk about the tempo of this Josh Heupel offense. I hope we don't see it, but it's valid.
We did not see it against Florida. Did not really see it against LSU, although that game was Tennessee just jumped out 20-0, and so they had that game in hand and were able to keep control throughout the course of it. But look, as long as that is not something that is addressed by the NCAA, which it has not been, defenses are going to continue to use that to slow down tempo, and there's just not a whole lot you can say about it because there's no rule against it.
Right.
And it's just going to keep happening. And Alex Golesh has talked about this a lot in the offseason. Tennessee offensive coordinator said, look, it's going to happen. We just got to learn to deal with it. And if that is happening, clearly it means because the offense is doing something right. So if that does take place on Saturday, personally, I don't have a problem with it because nothing has been done to stop it. And if I'm a defensive coordinator and that's what you got to do to try and slow things down to any extent, you do what you got to do.
And let's look at it this way. If Alabama's doing that on Saturday, Alabama may be in trouble.
Right. Exactly. And
Right?
I think that's how Tennessee staff looks at it. Now, certainly they would like to push for some sort of rule modification to prevent that in the future, but that's not the case right now, and they're going to have to deal with it. Cousin Danny is in the borough. What's up, Danny? Danny, you got us?
I got you.
Yep.
Can you guys hear me all right?
Oh, yeah.
Hey, listen, man. It's go big orange this week. It's Bama hate week, and it comes down to the Vols winning is as simple as 1, 2, 3. First and foremost, the Vols are number one in the country with yards per game, and I think we're going to rack up the yards. There's your one. We get the yardage. We keep pounding the ball. Number two, the Vols are ranked second in the nation in scoring per game. We're going to put them points up. And three, the Vols are third nationally with QBR behind Hendo Heisman because that man is slinging the pigskin around. He's not making mistakes. He's not throwing interceptions. Knock on wood, Vol Nation, he has not thrown an interception yet. I'm telling you right now, this offense is too high tempo. It's too high powered. It's too much to handle for Alabama. I'm calling it right now. Vols 28, Crimson Tide 21. Let's go.
Thanks for the call, Danny.
Rack him, as Jim Rome would say. Wow, Danny's got it. As easy as 1, 2, 3.
By the way, Bama, the fifth best team in college football in opponent yards allowed per game. If that made any sense, what I just said. They've allowed 250.8 yards per contest. That is fifth best in the country. Minnesota, the number one team in the country, 229.
Golden Gophs.
Yeah. James Madison, number 2. James Madison, who is a top 25 football team in their first ever year in FBS.
Well, they got my attention after they slammed
Week 1.
MTSU, man. They beat the pants off of them.
Bama just announced a home and home with Minnesota to replace what they were going to do with Oklahoma. That can't happen anymore because Oklahoma's headed to the SEC. Funky Cheese Man in Antioch gives us a Bama perspective. What's up, Funky Cheese Man?
Yes, sir. Oh, Andrew and Danny are both buddies of mine, but I got news for them, and they know it. They don't want to admit it. But them volunteers, yeah, they've been humble. I'm glad Heupel's keeping them humble. And Andrew can be bumping good old Rocky Top all week because they won't be singing it after we come through Neyland Stadium and beat them by at least 2 touchdowns. Roll, Tide, roll!
Thanks for the call, Cheese Man.
I would not want to be drunk with that guy. It seems like he would be the kind of guy to just start throwing bows.
It's 12:34.
Lucas has asked, though, and the masses have delivered. This is great. I love it.
We go to Matt in Nashville. Afternoon, Matt.
Hey, what's going on? How y'all doing?
Doing great, man.
Awesome. So my girl's from Indy. So I'm a Titans fan. I'm from here. She's a Colts fan. It's really nice taking her to bars and watching Titans and Colts games or Indy Titans game, and she's watching her Colts game. Yeah, we go to both games.
Now, Matt, go ahead. Sorry.
It's a real joy.
Is she a Colts fan because she's from Indy, or is she just a big Jim Irsay fan?
She's definitely not an Irsay fan. She hates Irsay, but she is a huge Colts fan.
Thanks for the call, Matt.
That's been Matt's gotten the better end of that deal the last 4 times out there. That's good stuff.
615-737-1045. Really enjoying this. Appreciate everybody that's calling in. Before we go to our next caller, Adam Sparks of Knoxville News Sentinel, Josh Heupel, Nick Saban, been on the SEC teleconference today. Heupel saying that Tennessee wide receiver Cedric Tillman would only play against Alabama if he is at 100%. had the tightrope ankle surgery a couple of weeks ago. Now, I heard VolQuest saying that if you see him walking around the facility, you wouldn't think he's hurt. So that's what that surgery does. It basically takes you out of what would be a boot right now if you were just going through a regular recovery process that speeds it up. But nothing official on whether or not Tillman will play. So you got Cedric Tillman for Tennessee and Bryce Young for Alabama, that their status is up in the air. But there's no question that the Young injury or possibility of Young not playing has a far bigger impact than Tillman not playing. Just from what we've seen just in the last week. That's Alabama, right. 3 turnovers, escape against A&M, and what Tennessee's offense has done without Tillman against Florida and LSU.
No, that's valid. And listen, as much as I'd love Tillman to play, for Tennessee, it's a far less costly proposition.
615-737-1045. Daniel in Lafayette wants to talk about the Tennessee-Alabama game. What's up, Daniel?
What's up, guys? I really wanted to respond to Bama JC and the last Bama caller. What y'all didn't know is they're currently at some church in Nashville praying to God that Bryce Young plays Saturday, because they know, and we all know, if Jaden Milrose takes that field, we are going to walk them like a dog Saturday. You understand me? We will destroy Alabama. Without Bryce Young, let's just be honest, they look like an average team right now. And another thing, Bama JC, meet me at the game somewhere and bring me an extra cigar, because when we smoke you, I'm going to smoke it right in front of your face. Vols by 50. Let's go!
Thanks for the call, Daniel.
Wow.
It's getting hot.
I'm telling you,
like a dog.
Not once in the last 15 years have you heard this type of attitude from Tennessee fans going into this game.
Smokey's going to put the elephant on a leash, according to Daniel there. Wow.
By the way, Josh Pate of 247 Sports, our buddy Josh Pate, had some really interesting comments yesterday on his show, Late Kick with Josh Pate, about Bryce Young, saying that a lot is floating around out there about, people assuming he's going to play. That he said, don't be quick on that assumption, and that you could potentially see Ty Simpson on Saturday if Bryce Young couldn't go. That's according to Josh Pate. Again, Simpson, the West Tennessee native, the son of Jason Simpson, the head coach of UT Martin, 5-star quarterback that won the state championship, 2A state title with Westview High School last year. Now a true freshman at Alabama. So just an interesting nugget there from Pate that if Young could not go, which he didn't have anything on that, nobody does.
But that would be quite the dynamic if Young Simpson comes in his first action.
Because Milroe was asked to do some things and that he just wasn't quite able to do, that maybe he wasn't ready for as far as throwing the football. Now, Milroe as a runner is unbelievable to watch. And what he did against Arkansas in the game where Bryce Young did get hurt 2 weeks ago, I mean, I remember watching that game in Indy because the Titans were about to play the Colts the next day, and Young goes down. Alabama put up more yardage, more points on Arkansas with Milroe than they did with Young. Now, that's because of some of the creases. I think they had 4 touchdowns of 75-plus yards after Young went down because Milroe and Gibbs, 2 guys that can just plant and go. And when there's a crease, you're just not going to stop them. We'll get into some of that a little bit more tomorrow. Jahmyr Gibbs, another huge point of conversation going into this game, the Alabama running back, who is quite a talent. Josh is in Smyrna to talk about this football game. What's up, Josh?
Hello.
Hey, Josh. What's up?
What's going on? Hey, for the last caller, man, it don't matter if it's Bryce Young. We gonna get it done. Smokey's gonna run up that tree, and I wanted to say, when we do beat them, we're probably going to see him again in the championship. What's y'all's probability on thinking that they're going to come back and play us again in the championship this year?
Thanks for the call, Josh. Alabama is the clear-cut best team in the SEC West. The conversation is who's the second best team right now. I thought it was Arkansas at the start of the season. They've really fallen off a cliff in the last couple weeks. A lot of that to do with KJ Jefferson being injured, but that defense has serious issues. Ole Miss and Mississippi State are dueling it out to figure out who the best team in that division is right now.
That's what makes the Egg Bowl so interesting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And now, Texas A&M, who knows how they're going to figure things out down the road, but I will remind you that a year ago, A&M beat Alabama and then lost 2 more games after that. So I don't know how things are going to look for Texas A&M down the stretch here, but I still think Alabama, if there's an interesting division title race in the SEC. It's in the East and not the West. And I still think that I'm not ready to have that conversation yet until we see what Tennessee is able to do against Alabama.
Yep.
Mike is in Hendersonville to talk about this game. What's up, Mike?
Hey guys, how you doing?
Doing great.
Well, there's some fun banter, obviously, but I think some of these callers need to tone down the stupidity level and just come back to reality. Tennessee's a good team. We got a lot of great things going, but we know how deep Alabama is. Let's face it, Alabama, there are 2, 3 guys, 4 guys can even play almost anywhere in the SEC. It's going to be fun. It's going to be one of those, I think, 15-rounders, right? A couple of big plays will probably decide it. Just want to let you guys, know, hey, UT Vol Nation's behind this one, but we need to temper a little bit of the smack talk. And Bama fan, if you didn't go to Bama, just shut up. I'm tired of all these non-alumni out here, talking all this smack and never sat inside a classroom in Alabama. So that's my call. I'd like to hear you guys a little bit about the analysis of the game, how you guys think it may be, this Saturday, how it might swing one way or another, just a little bit more on the numbers and how you guys think this may play out. I appreciate your time.
Thanks for the call, Mike.
Mike, the voice of reason.
Yes, bringing us back down to earth a little bit.
Does that matter to you guys so much? Like, it's kind of a big thing in Carolina, too, where it's like, oh, you're not really a North Carolina fan.
Right.
You didn't go to UNC. You're a Walmart Carolina fan. Like, is that something that bothers you? As like, you're an alumni of Tennessee. So, like, when these other people are like, yeah, Tennessee, I don't care if it's Bryce Young or Steve Young. Like, they didn't go there. Does that bother you? Or are you just like, yeah, you're cheering for my team?
Let's talk about that when we come back. We'll hit on Mike's call as well, and Phil in Portland on the line. We'll go to Phil. We'll do the polls. We'll wrap it up. It's the Buck Reising Show on 104.5 The Zone. been a fun show. Appreciate you guys hanging out with us on 104.5 The Zone. Lucas Panzica, Rhett Bryan, Robert Walsh at the controls.
Dr. John?
You know it, man.
He's just been
Go with it, homeboy.
Bringing
absolutely
the funk today.
crushing
like
it today. Crushing it today with the music. We'll be back tomorrow. I'll be hanging out with Tyler Ivins, host the starting lineup on our sister station in Knoxville, WNML, and we'll be talking about this matchup Thursday and Friday. But before
Tyler
Ivins of the Sports Animal in East Tennessee. Before we get to the polls and wrap things up, a few more of your phone calls here. Pat joins us next on 104.5 The Zone. What's up, Pat?
So, I want to talk to the guy who made the comment that if you didn't go to the school, you'd have no right to cheer for him, is basically what he said. He needs to know that maybe because the guy or gal that didn't go to the school was in Iraq or Afghanistan, maybe someplace minimal like that, having a good time while he was in college. How about telling him fans make football, especially college football? I'm not a fan of UT or Alabama. I don't care who wins. I'm a Notre Dame fan. I did not go to Notre Dame, but I still have the right to cheer for them. And all you UT fans and you Alabama fans, you too have the right to cheer. So tell that guy to take a chill pill.
Thanks for the call, Pat.
The tamest possible way that call could have gone.
Very, very eloquent.
Notre Dame fan. Feel bad for you there.
We're going to talk about that tomorrow. That is an interesting conversation about people attacking other fan bases for whether or not they went to that school. Phil in Portland is a Georgia fan that wants to talk about this game. What's up, Phil?
What's going on? Thanks for taking my call. I'm just so amused sitting back listening at these two little girls argue with each other. It's kind of like Pee-wee. I'm talking to you Alabama fans, and I'm talking to you Puke Orange fans. Listen, if y'all want to grow up one day and y'all want to beat the Georgia Bulldogs, baby, come on and do that. But until then, I don't want to hear this baby talk. Y'all can just keep that to yourself because I find this amusing. I'm going to sit here and watch them beat each other up, and then on November 5th, we're going to put Tennessee right where they belong in a reality check. Y'all have a blessed day.
Thanks for the call, Phil. They win one national championship, Rhett, and now
it's become the triangle of terror here.
This is awesome.
This is like a wrestling angle, man.
Oh, man. Appreciate everybody for hanging out with us today.
It was fun, man. It went really fast.
It was fun. We are not quite done, though.
Oh, no. We finish in style.
Let's do some polls.
Hello, everyone listening to the Buck Reising Show. This is Benjamin Kenobi, better known as Obi-Wan. I have but one thing to say. Lucas, use the Force. Use the Force, Lucas, to help interpret what the hell Chewie is saying. Oh, scrap that rubbish.
Lucas, I am not your father. I repeat, I am not your father, nor am I Buck's father.
I was once a Jedi Knight, and what I'm trying to say is, Lucas, it's time to update the final poll results here on the Buck Reising Show. Do it now. That may be the favorite one I did.
It's one of the best.
One.
It's definitely my favorite.
It's just how jarring it is with the music just hits you in the face.
Oh, scrap that rubbish. Custom order any new Ford from Two Rivers Ford, and they'll deliver it when it gets manufactured. That was terrible. Anyway.
You went Australian there.
What's the dumbest thing in sports this week, guys? We got a couple replies here. Most people are going with the shove and a misspelled roll tide in kind of like the SpongeBob dialect. You know when they go big letter, small letter, big letter, small letter.
That qualifies. My dumbest thing in sports this week, Brandon Staley doing Brandon Staley things, going for it in his own territory and handing the ball right back to the Browns, who could not take advantage and missed the kick. The Chargers will continue to win or lose on their own terms. I just think it'll be more losing than winning.
And mine was Chris Jones, the roughing the passer call on Monday Night Football that was, I think, going to lead to being a reviewable play because it was garbage.
What has been the biggest surprise of the season for the Titans so far? Puka leading the division after an 0-2 start. I didn't see that coming either, Puka.
Yeah, that's a good one. It's been an interesting 5 weeks in the NFL.
Would you rather have a new modern stadium 40 minutes outside of town or Nissan Stadium in its current location? 21% are down with the Lebanon Stadium, and 78% wants Nissan to stay where it is.
Again,
makes sense.
Total hypothetical. That if and when the Titans have a new stadium, it will be in the same location.
That's correct.
But it was just got me thinking after going to Buffalo and Washington and Dallas and all these stadiums that are so far outside of town. I agree. I don't care. I don't care if it's a rundown wooden shack. I'd rather have it right there across the river than 45 minutes away, with no disrespect to the wonderful people of Lebanon.
Lucas is down with keeping it in a stadium down by the river. Should the Titans fans be happy or concerned that Tierre Tart and Big Jeff lead the team in past breakups? 53% are happy, 46% are concerned.
It could be both, right? It can be.
It could go either way. It's how you view it.
Looking at how those guys have played and what some of the interesting things the Titans have done with Tart and Simmons on the defensive line, and being concerned about some of the defensive back play this season.
What is your favorite third Saturday in October memory between the Vols and Bama? Titans for Life says the one that's going to happen on Saturday when the Vols crush Bama.
Wow. I like it.
You know what I want to see? I want to see home-on-home uniform matchups like it used to be. Tennessee Orange, Alabama Crimson. Won't happen, but would love to see that brought back.
Going to be big.
And finally, what is the most interesting divisional race in the NFL season this year? NFC East, 62% leading the poll. AFC South, 27%. NFC West, 2.3%. And AFC North, 7%.
How about the NFC East, man?
It's nuts. It's nuts.
Rags to riches.
3 of the 4 teams. I mean, that may be where 2 of your wild card spots comes out of the NFC. Is that division?
Rhett, enjoy the remainder of your bye week.
I'm going to, and as soon as I'm done right here, bye week begins for this guy. I'll be back Monday, and Titans Radio will be ready to roll as we go Colts. It's Colts week next week, right here by the river, in that not-so shack.
Already. Rhett Bryan, appreciate you hanging out, man. This
Thank
was
you, brother.
fun. We'll be back tomorrow with Tyler Ivins of the Sports Animal in Knoxville, but Blaine and Mickey are next live from the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance. But for Rhett Bryan, Robert Walsh, I'm Lucas Panzica. Talk to you tomorrow.